All right. So I want to welcome everybody. My name is Joe Caesar. I'm the executive director of Legacy Institute for Financial Empowerment. We have a new series we're about to launch called Casual Conversations. We're going to bring in some of our past friends and family, and we're going to have real conversations that you all have asked for. One of the questions that I've been asked many times by parents is, what does my child need to know about financial literacy before they go to college? I've had high school students tell me that they want to know more about financial literacy. So today we have a treat for you. We're bringing back one of our old friends and one of my favorite people in the world, Jaida. And Jaida, she's going to tell you a little bit about herself, but she is a recent college graduate and she is a young professional who's trying to build her career. So with that all said, Jaida, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
First off, thank you for having me. Excited to be here. I'm sure that y'all have seen a few of my videos kind of circulate through Life. I've been part of the Life family for a really long time. Like Joe said, my name is Jaida. I've been part of the financial literacy team here at Life for, I guess, since high school. So that would be about since I was 17 or 18. I'm now 22. Like he mentioned, I am a recent graduate from Texas Tech University. I majored in political science with a minor in creative media. I did recently graduate this past May. I am on the pre-law track. I'm scheduled to take my LSAT this upcoming April with a goal to go to law school in 2027.
Okay, well, thank you. So what did you learn when you were growing up? Obviously, we we have our families, we have our friends, we have our school. What did you grow up learning about financial literacy?
So for me, financial literacy wasn't really a discussion. It wasn't really a conversation that was held in my household. My dad, he doesn't have a high school diploma. My mom, she's from Europe. The way that they handle financial situations over there is a lot different than how we do them here in the States. Both of my parents, we were considered lower income as a family. I have two younger siblings as well. So that just wasn't really a discussion that we had because our day-to-day life was less about how to grow or get ahead and more of just how to survive and get through our day-to-day.
Yeah, when I was a kid, my parents didn't talk to me about money either. Matter of fact, money was just something that adults talked about. They didn't include us in the budget. All I heard was no when I wanted something. So that's not uncommon. And I think that's something that I think people can learn from. I think parents have to do a better job of including their children in these financial conversations because when they grow up, they will know more. So how has that affected you? How the way you grew up and the lack of inclusion in financial literacy from your parents, how did that impact you as an adult and as a young professional?
So my biggest thing for me, obviously, and the main subject and topic of today's conversation was college. I grew up in a fairly small town, so everyone around me, college is kind of just the next thing on their game plan. After high school, you graduate, you automatically default and go to college, or you begin working straight out of high school or already had jobs throughout high school. I was one of the few that had jobs throughout high school because, again, I wasn't included in that financial conversation. All I knew was that I needed to have some sort of income and money being brought in, less for a generational wealth aspect and more of just providing for our family, helping put food on the table. So whenever I did graduate high school and I went straight into the workforce, I decided that additional education was something that I really, really wanted, but I wasn't quite sure of how to obtain that goal due to the money roadblock that was in the way. People throw out all kinds of crazy numbers, especially when you're researching online over this. It's $28,000 to go here, then you need $1,000 for books and tuition. Those kinds of conversations I didn't really have until they start bringing up things like student loan debt
Right.
and how to take on that kind of thing. And all I know from growing up is that a loan is a bad thing.
Right.
Taking in any kind of debt is a bad thing. And I already had nothing, so it kind of pushed me back from obtaining that secondary degree that I wanted.
Right. Yeah. There's a list of things that I wish I would have known, and I can give you mistakes. I remember when I first went to college, and then started being introduced to credit cards and how to use it. My first financial mistake was getting a Discover card, not having a job, and not knowing how to use it. And I ended up ruining my credit while I was in college before I even started my life. So that was a huge thing. So what do you wish you would have known about money? Because there were opportunities to teach you at certain points. What do you wish you would have known before you went to Angelina College and Texas Tech?
I feel like the biggest thing for me was just the difference between unnecessary and necessary debt. Taking on things, I was scared that by taking on a student loan, that would cripple me financially for the long run. For the rest of my life, I would never be able to recover from that. I would never be able to grow from that. And instead, I was taking on temporary debt, like credit cards, for example, like you mentioned, or borrowing money from people or my parents or family, friends, whatever that case may be, taking out small loans, doing things where it's just, I'm absorbing all this unnecessary debt in order to pay off and take care of small things in my life, rather than just commit to a necessary debt such as a student loan in order to help me in the long run with my career goals and my eventual financial goals that I had. I really wish that there was just someone who was there to teach me the difference between what debt that is okay to take on and not okay, but more common to take on and recover from, and things that are actually liable to you that you do and don't need, and then also how to recover from that debt once you take it on.
Right. So that is an interesting conversation about debt, because so many students end up paying for school using student loan debt, but there's nothing in place in high school, college to teach you how to use that. So what do you wish Huntington High School would have taught you, or Angelina College or Texas Tech, while you were engaged with those institutions? What do you wish they would have taught you?
So for me, the biggest thing is, whenever you're a young adult or even teenager, preteen, whatever it may be, I wish someone had just sat me down and kind of just went through the fundamentals of money, fundamentals of credit, fundamentals of debt. Because so many things we're taught how to calculate formulas, all the basic general knowledge that you learn in school, but no one teaches you any real world application for the things that you're learning. Especially when you go to a smaller town, smaller budget, we have little to no electives, that sort of thing. Same thing with community college. There just aren't enough resources around to provide you with a general, like, basic understanding of how money is applied in everyday life. How the difference of buying, as one of your favorite lectures that you like to tell me about, how the difference in buying a $7 coffee could be the difference between you and a retirement fund, or how repetitively buying things that you don't need and restocking on things that you don't need on a day-to-day basis is putting you back in the long run. And by postponing saving, putting money aside is hurting you rather than helping you, because you're visualizing, oh, I need this every single day, rather than making, like, what sacrifices can I make? What can I learn to live without in order to help you in the long run? And I just wish that there was someone who sat me down, and I'm sure many others, and just was like, hey, these are the things that will eventually catch up to you, because it's fun and all when you're young, when you're 17, 18, 21, 22, but then when you're 45, 50, even 30, those things end up hurting you. And I wish I would have known those things when I was that age, recklessly spending money compared to now.
So I'm on the school board of Lufkin ISD, but for school districts, if anybody is listening to this, this is important. And you may not be aware of this, but the state of Texas actually mandated that personal financial literacy be included. It's now a requirement for incoming freshmen. And by the time they're a senior, they have to take it. It's a part of the social studies area. So it has to be personable. It has to be actionable. It can't just be theory, real world application. And so we have to teach our kids how to do it, not just from a book, but actually have them work through the problems. So appreciate that. So when you were at AC, what was your major?
When I majored at AC, I originally was pre-law, and then they changed the program around, and I became a general studies major with a pre-law minor.
And then you went to Texas Tech and majored in
Political science, yes.
Okay, so nothing at Angelina College and at Texas Tech, nothing was preparing you for being a financially literate adult and professional?
No, I would say the biggest thing is you kind of have one-off conversations with your professors as you get to know them on a more personable level. They kind of give you real-world advice in between lectures and things like that, but at the end of the day, they're aware and you're aware that the amount of money you're spending for the course, the things that you want to do, you want to learn that are relevant to your course. So very, very rarely, especially as someone who's a political science major, a lot of my courses were languages, history, English, classes and courses like that, we barely even, I think I had maybe one math class in my entire 4 years of university or 3 years of university. So there's just not, that conversation is just not being held unless you're developing interpersonal relationships with your professors and they take a liking to you and they, try and coach you or mentor you. But there's very little things in your curriculum that teach you about what, in your general curriculum or your introductory curriculum, that teach you about financial literacy from the beginning.
Right. And I want to bring out the impact or the negative impact of that. So once you graduated from Texas Tech, congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
Once you graduated from Texas Tech, you did get hired at a law firm. And while you were in college, you were working for various employers and while you were here as well. But other than you working for us, when you did work for us, did any of your employers provide any type of financial literacy education?
So I've had a pretty, we'll say, vast employer kind of relationships. I've worked almost every job that you can ever imagine from, I've done fast food, waitressing, I've bartended, I've checked IDs, I've been a bouncer.
When we met, I think she was working for Cane's Chicken,
Yes,
by the way.
I've worked for Raising Cane's, I worked for a law firm, I've worked for a marketing agency, I've done every job retail from one end to the other end of the spectrum. And most of the time, I'll say most, because a lot of my employers I really did form really good connections with. And again, they took me on as a mentor-mentee relationship, but that was outside of work. But on a strictly contractual work basis, nobody teaches you anything going into the workplace, especially as a young adult. They expect you to take on that responsibility of being the youngest in the room. And they're aware that you're the youngest in the room, but they're not taking that opportunity to teach you or to mentor you or to help you, guide you through basic adult things. Because once you've put yourself in that position of being, hey, like, I'm a young adult and I'm in this career or this job field or whatever it may be, I'm now also taking on and absolving that responsibility of being like, I now am in charge of myself. So your employers are thinking the same way of you. Of, okay, well, if she's confident enough to put herself in this role, whether it be working at Sonic or working for a law firm, they're expecting you to handle the things that you're experiencing like an adult without having to be taught or told how to do that.
So they're expecting you to learn on the job.
Yes,
basically.
essentially.
So did you ever participate in any of the benefits packages like 401k, health insurance, disability insurance? Did you ever participate in any of those?
I did. I had, whenever I had first gotten my first big job, which was with a marketing company right outside of Lufkin, I enrolled in everything that they had. I had like 401k matched. I think at one point I had a compounded Roth IRA. I had disability insurance. I took out health insurance, renter's insurance, anything that I could take from the company. I think I put my name on it, and I just let them take every dollar out of my check.
So who taught you how to do that?
Well, you taught me how to do that.
Oh, okay. So good. So without having those conversations and being exposed to us, you wouldn't have.
Especially with the small things that they're like, just being like, okay, so what exactly am I enrolling in? What does the word match mean?
Right.
What can I expect to happen from this paycheck to this paycheck? Or even simpler things with just like taxes at the end of the year and paying those things back, knowing what exactly is being taken out of my paycheck every time I get paid. And those things are kind of things that you and I had a lot of conversations about, because once you get to a point where that's, everyone's getting paid at this point. At my age, most people have had a job or getting a job or something where there's money coming into their system. You start being like, okay, well, maybe I didn't know this like small thing that everyone's just assuming that you should know. And a lot of those conversations were had between us of me being like, hey, I know this might be dumb, but why is like $30 coming out of my paycheck every single month? And I think we've had those conversations from when I first started with the program all the way up to now even.
So talk to us, so your most recent position at the law firm, I remember when you got your benefits package there and we had a conversation, there was a lot. You want to give a little bit of insight on that?
So whenever you're given your benefits package, I think collectively everyone agrees it's the worst time of the year. Whenever you're a new employee, they give you no training, no coaching, no anything. They send an email out saying, hey, all of our new employees, your benefits package is here. And then that's it. And then that's it. That's literally all that there is to it. And then they bother you about it forever and forever. And this is with every company ever. Like every company I've ever worked for, it's the same way. You just kind of wait for the email to come. And they're like, here, and they're like, if you need to print it out, here's a link to our package. Have fun. Good luck. Apply for whatever. Deadline is this day. See you then. Hope you've done everything you need to because there is no changing it. And then you're stuck looking at like your fellow coworkers, and I'm like calling my mom and I'm being like, hey, I don't know what any of these words mean. And she's like, well, I don't know what any of those words mean either. And then we're all just stuck and confused. Meanwhile, your deadline is currently and creepily encroaching upon you. And you're just like, I'm just going to put my name on things and sign it and hope that I signed up for things that I actually need and I'm not wasting.
Yeah. So for those who are not aware, when you have a 401k and it's a match and you don't take the match or you put zero, you don't want to get involved with it, then the company actually saves money because they allocate when they hire you 3% or whatever the match is, that's going to be an expense. But if you don't take it, they don't have to pay for that. So they have no incentive on educating you on the benefits packages because if you choose not to participate in the insurance plan, not to participate in the 401k plan, not to participate in disability, those are all things that they will either 100% cover for you or they will cover half of it. So you're basically giving them money back by not taking the benefits packages. So it's not in their best interest to educate you, and that's what we're experiencing now. But I'm glad you made it through that, and I'm glad you picked up the phone so I could walk you through all that. So obviously you had a relationship with several churches. You had a church home here in Deep East, Texas, but also in Lubbock. So you were exercising your faith and doing that. At any point, was any of the churches teaching you about money or financial literacy or what thus saith the Lord regarding money?
So that's not something that at first I even considered as a plausible option. Like my church home teaching me about finances. I'm a long-term member of my church back home, Huntington First Baptist Church. I've been there since I guess I was in the 4th or 5th grade. And then when I moved out to Lubbock, I became part of City Church Lubbock. Very amazing groups of people, very amazing ministries, both very different. However, with both different approaches that I saw within each church, the conversation of money isn't brought up in an aspect of anything other than tithing or donations or that sort of thing, giving back to the church. But the conversations weren't ever had over, especially for someone who is a young adult working through faith. No one's ever told you, like, what do you do in the aspect of, like, how does this look for me financially? One, like, why exactly am I giving this money to the church? Right. Like, we all know the basics and fundamentals of tithing and giving a percentage of your paycheck, donating to the church. We all know why we do it, but we don't really know what that practical application looks like. Like, where exactly is this money going? What do I do in the case or the aspect of me not having money to give? What do I do in the substitution if it comes to a point where I cannot give money or I need to allocate money somewhere else? Or in my case, for example, I was only at that church because I was going to college in Lubbock and I lived in Lubbock. And another question approaches, okay, well, if I'm not a member of this church, how does my money apply in this aspect? Do I need to be donating to my home church? Do I need to be donating to both churches? So the conversation of money isn't really a conversation rather than a set of instructions as we're called to by our faith, by our religion. But nobody actually breaks down those kinds of things unless you're attending like monthly meetings throughout the church. But again, those are for members. So it wasn't really an environment that I was like, do I go to this? Am I supposed to like figure out how this like works and how like is money an actual amount? Is it like, where do you go from here? So there's no actual like practical conversation again about what exactly my money is doing within the church, how much money I'm supposed to be giving, and what do those financial contributions look like, especially as we turn towards the holiday season that's coming up, and throughout all of those things about how can I practically apply money to my church and what should I be doing in order to make sure that I have money to give to the church.
Do you believe they should have? And I know I don't want to get anyone in trouble, but would you have liked for your churches to contribute or to educate you in those ways?
I believe in any aspect, especially in today's financial climate. I feel like everyone should know what exactly money is being put towards.
Yeah.
Or how exactly, what do I do in the aspects of I don't have money to give? Because that's a very real reality for a lot of people, especially for young adults and college students. Most of us, it's, if you're not paying your way and funding your life through college yourself, you have parents who are doing that and who are designating certain money to you. And that's it. That's all you have. There is no additional income for most students. You're either paying your way or you're giving a set amount of money. Regardless your circumstance, there is no extra money to pull out of. There is, and for some students, everyone's different. Everyone's financial situation is different. Some students have more access to money than others. But in the general scheme of things, it's like, you don't know, like, if I don't know why I'm giving $20 or where that $20 is going to or how exactly this works. Do I give you $20 this month, but let's say I can't give you money next month? How does that work for me? Does God all of a sudden hate me? Like, just those little like conversations are being had, and not only that, but reassurance being given, because you're supposed to tithe and you're supposed to give, even in cases where you don't have anything to give. Having a program where it's like, what does that look like for someone like me who does not have a lot to give, but wants to give and will give, but needs kind of a little bit of reassurance of being like, how's my church family gonna show up for me also in that week?
I think it's a fair request. And I'm a minister, you know that. But I want to challenge all the faith leaders that we have to do better. Jesus, someone actually did some research and they categorized all of Jesus's subjects. The number one subject that he used to make his points was money. He talked more about money than any other subject. One of my favorite is the parable of the talents in Matthew chapter 25, starting around verse 13. And I won't go through it, but he used financial situations to bring about larger spiritual points. Even in one of my favorite books, the book of Proverbs chapter 22 and verse number 6 says, train up a child in the way he should go. And when they get older, they won't depart from it, right? You're like a child, right? Not anymore, but train up a child in the way they should go. And when they get older, they won't depart from it. But the very next verse says that the rich rules over the poor and the borrower is slave to the lender. That's an important point that we should bring up. Like, when you become indebted, you become like a slave, and you feel like that when they're about to take your car, when they're about to take your house, when they're about to take things from you. It's an interesting situation. So I want to challenge faith leaders to include practical application of what God's word has to say, and then answer those simple questions. What do I do if I can't give the amount of money that I want to give? Then does God still love me? And I believe we have to reassure people. But it's not about me, it's about you. So what would be the biggest change? If you can go back to freshman year at Angelina College, when you were just getting started with your education, what would you have done differently? Regarding money, of course.
So my biggest thing, the reason I chose community college, which I'm sure many people do, we won't say nobody, but rarely ever do traditional students that is going from high school straight to college, no gap years, that sort of stuff. Most traditional students pick community college not because of a want, but because they have to. For me, it was the same way. I went to community college because my college was free. And then not only was it free, but I was also a qualifier for a Pell Grant, which means that's essentially money that the government gives you in order to sustain your habits throughout college so you can focus on your education. It's not a lot of money. It's rarely ever a lot of money, but it was a lot more money than I had as someone who was also working whilst in college. And when at that point I was also living at home because, again, I couldn't afford rent for that first 6 months, I guess 6 months to a year that I was at AC before I had moved out. They give you an excess of money anywhere from, it could be $100 to $5,000. I was one of the lucky recipients who, we'll say lucky in quotations, who got a little bit closer to the higher end regarding my Pell Grant. And on top of that, I also had scholarships, and I just had an excess of money funneled into your bank account, and then they don't tell you anything about it. They just put money there, and they're like, she'll check her bank account and see that she has a lot more money than she did yesterday. And I know good and well I wasn't given that money from working at Raising Cane's and my little measly $12 an hour. So whenever they put that money in your account and they just kind of leave it there, and then you wake up one day and you have all this excess money in your bank account for no reason. and I'm 18 living at home, the first thing I did was, I am now a grown adult. We'll put grown adult in quotations because 18-year-old Jaida knew nothing. I'm now a grown adult with an excess and abundance amount of cash with no bills, no responsibilities. My mom very financially blessed me the first year of college, saying that if I was going to live at home the first year, I just had to pick a bill and take care of it. And even then, she was lenient on that sort of stuff. But my first year of college, I was given a lot of grace, which in hindsight, Mom, if you're watching this, never do that again. Never do that again. But I was given an excess and an abundance of money, and the first thing I did was buy everything that I've ever wanted. And Joseph knows, because I told him about the day that I got direct deposited all the money, then I told him the day I didn't have any left, and that was not a fun conversation to have.
What did I tell you to do with the money?
He told me immediately, one, pay off all necessary debts. He said anything that needs to be taken care of, catch up in abundance. I remember that conversation. I did not do that. Secondly, he said, find a certain amount of goals or something that you are going to need in the future and put money aside for that. I also did not do that. And then 3, he told me to invest that money. Invest it in whatever it may be, whatever form of investment it might be. At that time we were talking about, I think it was Pancake, which was our big thing. It was Pancake and
it was cryptocurrency.
And crypto, yeah. And invest your money in some form or fashion in that, because it wasn't profit, or it was straight profit. No, like, I had no debt from that money. It was pure grant money. It wasn't money that I owed back, and that would have been the perfect asset for me in the future. But instead, 18-year-old Jaida decided I could do that for the long run, or we could live life while life is worth living. And I basically blew through all of that money within less than 6 months. I spent it on everything possible. I was eating out almost every single day. I did put a little bit of it aside eventually, like I said, to move out of my parents' house when I was 17-ish. I put money aside to be able to pay a deposit, first month's rent, bills, all that sort of stuff. Had I saved more of that money, I probably could have paid my entire 6 months' rent on top of the money I was making at both of the jobs I was working, and I probably could have had a whole year paid out through rent. But instead, I just put a little bit aside to take off that little debt, and I told myself that was good enough.
Yeah.
Which we know now, it was not good enough.
A part of that conversation was also, you have to think, because you wanted to go to a 4-year school.
Yes.
So you can save while you're in junior college. And for those who are going to any junior college, and the junior college is only charging you $2,000 or $4,000 a year or a semester to go to school, and you get this check for $6,000, and you may have had a scholarship, you have to think, when you go to Stephen F. Austin State University or Texas Tech University, they are not $4,000 a year. They are $16,000, $24,000 a year. So what you want to do is you want to save your Pell Grant in JUCO, and then use the excess capital to go to and to offset the cost of a 4-year university. And in the meantime, you can invest it. That's what we said. So now we're having this conversation, and now hindsight, you would have done something differently. What would you have done?
Me personally, I would have trusted my money with someone like Joseph. Because again, at that age, not only was I not knowledgeable enough about what the financial world means, I also didn't want to know. If I'm being so completely blunt and honest, and I think many people my age can relate to that, there's a lot of things going on right now with being a young adult and being a teenager and being a preteen, that adding financial literacy on top of that was just not something I wanted to experience, especially with someone who was already struggling to be financially independent. And I wish I would have reached out, found somebody within my circle, or in this case, outside of my circle, and found someone that could tell me what to do with it, and then trusting them to do something with it. Especially with someone like me who was not wanting to be knowledgeable about how it worked, I wish I would have taken a minute and an opportunity to find somebody who was, find a program like this where they actually help people in my situations, and just trust that they know what's best for it. Even if it wasn't directly you're investing my money or I'm giving you access to my bank accounts, but just being like, hey, Jaida.
A counselor.
Yes, this is what you need to do with it. Or finding someone who's living the lifestyle that I want to live and asking them, hey, what did you do to get to this point? Whether it be through a more generous upbringing than mine, What do you do now? What are some habits you practice now? What are some things you do now with your money that got you to the place that you are at now? And I wish I would have spent more time finding those people and finding that community, so that way I wouldn't have been put in the position of blowing through all of my money, and whenever I'm getting to Texas Tech, basically being out of luck.
I think that's great advice. So young people, don't feel like you're out there alone. Obviously, Legacy Institute, we're there for you, but find a financial coach. Find somebody that is mature with money to help you make those kinds of decisions. You're not in this alone. All right, so now I'm gonna ask you to be vulnerable.
Oh no.
Okay, usually there's like a wake-up call. Like there's a moment, like at the story in the Bible, the prodigal son, where he found himself eating what the pigs was eating, and then he woke up and it was like, it was better at my father's house. Did you have a moment where it was like a wake-up call, where you hit rock bottom and said, I have to do things differently?
So I've had a bunch of smaller moments throughout your college career, especially because I'm a young female adult. Everything always seems like the end of the world, especially with someone who is riddled with anxiety. A small low moment for me feels like catastrophic events. But my biggest moment, and I still, don't get me wrong, I still do, hit rock bottom every now and then. But my biggest moment was about a year ago, we'll say then, when I had gotten into a car accident. I lost my vehicle, my only form of transportation. I totaled out my car completely, which then resulted in me losing my job because I was a pizza delivery driver and can't deliver pizza with no car. Lost my car, lost my job, because I started lacking in my social life because nobody wants to drive you around all day, every day while you're in college. It's just not feasible. No source of income meant I couldn't go anywhere or do anything. I couldn't afford an Uber to take me to work. I basically was stuck my second semester of college, stuck in an apartment by myself for 6 months. And for someone who, one, I was 9 hours away from home. Lubbock is about 9 hours from my hometown. To be alone in a position that vulnerable is detrimental to a young adult. I genuinely was ready to drop out of college. I couldn't afford my apartment anymore. I was on the brink of homelessness. I couldn't afford to put food in my fridge. I was eating from a local food pantry within my college. Side note, all colleges have a local food pantry. Please take advantage of them. They're amazing. The people are fantastic, and I owe them so much. But I was eating out of a local food pantry just to afford to eat. I had a dog at the time, and I was siphoning off dog food from local rescues and places in the area from friends and from family, just trying to make ends meet. And I lived that life, no job, no friends, no social life, no car, no money, no anything for 6 months. Thankfully, I was really blessed with an apartment complex who understood my financial situation, and they gave me a bit of leniency, and agreements were made and stuff like that. Later down the line, but I literally was struggling 9 hours away from home with no community, no resources, by myself for 6 months. When I came back home, I decided I was done with college. I decided I was going to drop out. I was giving up on my aspirations to become a lawyer, my aspirations to go to law school. I'd given up on literally anything that could provide joy in my life. I had just got into a really dark, bad mental place over this is it. And this was all because I had nothing prepared for when an emergency happened. This genuinely, if I would have had money saved up, I could have put a down payment on a new car. I didn't have gap protection for my old car, so I was still paying off the remainder of that debt. And I was just drowning in things and responsibilities and stuff that I had to pay that I couldn't. Car insurance, light bills, water bills, Wi-Fi, whatever it may be. And on top of that, you lose all of your fun money too.
Right.
I'm no longer being social. I can't afford to be social. No more eating out. I can't afford to eat out. No more quick day trips up the road, even if it's just to the movies or to the gas station. I can't afford to put gas in my car. I can't afford my car. Things like that, and you become very isolated. So whenever I had moved back home, I basically had spent the remainder of the summer telling myself, hey, this is it. I'm giving up. I'm throwing everything out the window. I tried to move out. I tried to be successful. I tried to start my own, and I'm gonna do it all. And then I couldn't. And I thought that that was going to be the end of the journey for me, was going to be that summer. I had told my mom, I'm done. I'm going to go see if I can get a job at Raising Cane's again. I was like, I'll pick up a job at Sonic. I'll contribute to the bills. But I think I'm not meant to do anything else, all because I had nothing prepared for when an emergency happened to me.
So your lesson is savings.
Yes. Having something in plan, even if you are someone who lives paycheck to paycheck, having some form of backup somewhere is so important. Because at this point, all it really would have taken was if I had decent enough credit, because I was living on my own, paying bills and stuff. If I had focused on my credit, I could have taken out a small emergency loan somewhere. I could have paid off the remainder of my car. I could have done something practical. Even if I had, even rock bottom could have opened up a credit card, you know?
Right.
But because I put zero effort in building up the basics while I had an opportunity, regardless if that was physical money or just setting myself up in case of an emergency, or having a backup job, or having a sort of preparedness plan in place financially, if something financially bad were to happen, that is what set me up for failure.
Yeah, so that was a very hard situation because Jaida actually texted me and said I got in a bad car accident, and I was like, okay, now I'm concerned. I put like my daddy hat on, right? Even though I'm not your father, it felt like that, right? Send me a picture, and she sent me this picture. She's like in a hospital bed with a neck brace on, and like her eyes were red, and I was like freaking out. So I shared with Elena. And the thing is, and you know, I encourage you to try to stay local to go to university, but you chose to go to the another side of Texas, almost in a different time zone. And when you do that as a college student, you leave all your support system, and we have to support you from afar, and that could be very hard on the people who love you. But thank you for sharing that with us. But so now I want to shift gears because you brought up credit. What is your relationship with credit?
So I think everyone kind of is the same realm. Credit bad. No credit. Never open a credit card. Never take a credit card. Credit cards are bad. You'll be in credit card debt for forever. Blah, 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 blah. I now have a credit card after forever and forever and forever and forever. I just recently opened one, I think when right before I turned 22, with the help of Joe, obviously. But before then, I had no idea what like establishing good credit was, what bad credit was, how credit score worked, how like what does it mean for you, like what things affecting your credit, what are open accounts, closed accounts, how can like one benefit the other, what is your APR, all that fun stuff, all those words that just kind of relate around interest rates, all that fun stuff. I had no idea what it was and how that was truly impacting like the important part of your financial decision, which is your credit. Because all of your biggest purchases in life, unfortunately, most Americans, I guess, or most people my age, do not have an excess of cash laying around where we can just pay people money to do whatever it is that we want to do, which is buying a house, renting a place, renting a car, buying a car, leasing a car, whatever it may be. Most of us don't have the excess funds. If I did, that'd be great, but I don't. So
understood. And no one has taught you about credit, from parents to school to college to employer. No one has taught you about credit.
It's like a unspoken thing because we all associate it with negativity. Most people, I think, when they think credit card, it's credit card debt. And more people than you think have credit card debt. They're just not talking about it. Which, you know, transparency should just be a thing that I feel like is talked about more regarding financial literacy. People are so scared to be vulnerable about their finances, and which leads so many people like me to make so many dumb decisions because you think everyone's got it all figured out. But in reality, as you find out later down the line, because if you poke and prod enough, they'll tell you, you figure out that house that they bought, that was an insane amount of credit. That family vacation they took last year, 3 credit cards. That brand new car they just bought, 3 more credit cards. How do they keep up with all the latest clothes, technology, whatever? Credit cards, debt. But nobody talks about it openly. So then we're all playing the catch-up game, but none of us are at a point where we can catch up with one another.
Yeah, I talk about it openly. And I want to tell you, so since you all are watching, credit is a belief system. It is a trust system. So the word credit comes from a word credo, which means to believe. And it's your financial reputation. So if people were going to put a number on how they can trust you financially, that represents your credit score. Do I like how it's calculated? I'm not a fan of it, but it's what we have. So if you have a bad credit score, then people are saying, we all don't believe that you're going to pay us back. And I think that's important for people to know. And the Bible actually talks about this stuff. And, I'm going to give you one for free. Ecclesiastes 7:1 talks about a good reputation is more valuable than like rubies and fine perfume. So a reputation is important. So what is your reputation when you go sit across from a car lender and they pull up your credit and it's a 480? What does that say about you? So I believe it's important to have these conversations about credit and to teach our young people about credit so we don't end up in this situation. So, did you get a credit card while you were in college?
I did get a credit card while I was in college.
Tell us about that experience. So obviously we had a conversation about that. But what were do you remember the things that we talked about? And
for me, the biggest thing for a credit card was, one, I knew nothing about credit cards. And when I say nothing, I mean literally nothing. Again, this comes from a very willingness to not learn or pay attention. Now that I'm 22, I pay a lot more attention, and I wish I would have listened sooner. But it's just it was a lot of adamancy that I could do things myself and I could not, which I learned, which is why I had to open a credit card. So I went to get a new vehicle after my car wreck, finally. But I went to get a new vehicle with the help of Life. They were able to help me figure out kind of what the basics of car buying was, how that worked. And it came to a point where I had 4 essentially bad tires on my car.
yeah.
And for someone who lives 9 hours away, you can't have bad tires on your car. Especially if you're in the Lubbock area, you know that it snows, it's windy all the time, and there's a pothole or a, what are those little things? The little bush things called?
The bush? Tumbleweed?
Tumbleweeds.
Yes,
They're everywhere.
Tumbleweeds in West Texas.
Yes, and hail, and they will ruin your vehicle. So going all the way to Lubbock with no tires was not plausible for me. That's when I asked Joseph, hey, I need a way to put tires on my car, and I don't want to take out a loan. How do I do that? He was like, well, let's have this conversation now. Because I was like, I'm going to get a credit card because they keep telling me I'm pre-approved for them and they're $1,000 and da-da-da-da, and I'm going to be able to buy tires. I had that conversation with Joe, and Joe's first words were, not at all should this be the situation you're opening a credit card. He told me, he was like, getting a credit card for something that you already can't afford is not practical or smart. Which again, falls into the, I should have had an emergency fund and didn't. But it was the reality, right? It's the reality of the fact that I didn't have another form of income, and the only way to get income was to have a car.
I want to back up 1 second, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
So I went with her to purchase the vehicle, and it was the vehicle that she wanted. It was like her dream vehicle. Not the exact one she wanted. She wanted a Bronco.
Yep.
But this was a good substitute. And the only thing that I could find wrong with the vehicle was the tires. So she bought a car with bad tires.
I did.
And I went to bat for her, and I tried to go to the leadership at the dealership to get them to change the tires. And I asked them, if your daughter lived in Lubbock, would you send her to Lubbock on these tires? They said no, but they would not change the tires. So when you're buying a car, make sure that the car has good tires. And she bought the car with bad tires, and then got to Lubbock and had a situation, and now she's in a crisis. So we have to manage our wants. But again, I want to use that as a lesson. But
I mean, that boils down to like sacrificing something for something else. And again, I was stubborn and adamant that this was the car that I was getting. I didn't even give myself an opportunity to look at other vehicles or look at other lots. I said, this is the one. And I love her to death. I still drive her to this day. But I basically walked out there already with a $500 expense before I even put the car on the road. I'm already down $500. They insisted that they weren't going to change it, all that stuff. That's when I decided
to get a credit card.
So
Keep going.
Okay. At that point, after I had made that decision, I kind of just I was super self-aware that accruing debt for the sake of other debt was just not beneficial or useful at all for me. But it was, again, like I said, just what I had to do in that situation. And you'll face a lot of those things as a young adult. You know that you're doing something dumb, but it's what you want to do, so you're going to do it anyway. And you just have to deal with it. And that's what I did. I chose to deal with it. I opened up a credit card. Somehow, some way, magically, I got approved for the credit card. They gave me a $1,000 limit, and with that $1,000, within 30 seconds, $500 of it gone, spent towards tires. Now, there's a general rule with credit card debt, and I don't remember what it is, but I'm sure Joe will tell you, over how much you're supposed to have spent compared to how much you have available regarding your credit. And let's just say within 6 months, I was well over what that ratio was supposed to be.
Within 30 seconds, you were.
Yes.
So for you all know, that FICO, 6% is the limit. So 6%. So out of $1,000, all you can spend is $60. So when you put $500 on there, but again, at that point, credit score and managing your credit score was not the most pressing thing. But typically, once you go beyond 20% of your available balance, then you really start to get hurt. But to maximize your score, you want to keep it below 6%.
And we were way over that 6%.
We were
way over.
But you got your tires.
But I got my tires and I got my car.
All right. So, which car did you get?
I ended up getting a 2019 Jeep Cherokee.
I know you love your car.
I'm trying to tell my story. I got a 2019 Jeep Cherokee, and I got that, and I used my Chase MasterCard, I think, right? Visa card. Dang, I always mix them up. And I used it to get my tires using a Chase Visa card. I originally was going to go for the student card, but then I ended up just getting the regular, I don't remember the name of it. And the reason I mentioned what car I got is because it's very important to understand how, whenever I went and got this vehicle, whenever I had walked out of the dealership with it, and I was like, first off, I wanted a Bronco, which was already, and not like a Bronco Sport or whatever. I wanted a Bronco, which was completely unrealistic. So whenever I told myself, oh, I'm settling for a Jeep, which was, yeah.
Right.
And then what they don't tell you about these cars is that certain cars and certain manufacturers and certain parts and certain things on these cars require so much more money than anything else for any other car you will ever have ever.
That is true.
So this Chase card, it was super important to me for a variety of reasons, because I already knew intrinsically. I didn't buy a new car. This was a used car, had a lot of mileage on it. I knew intrinsically something goes wrong with this car, I'm gonna have to end up using this credit card again to pay for parts, repairs, maintenance, whatever it may be. So whenever I was going through credit cards, for me a big thing was cashback, points, that sort of thing, because I knew that this credit card was essentially now my emergency funds. So I did a lot of research with Joe, and he helped me kind of figured out someone where there was things that were super beneficial for me for the first year of credit card, like there was no interest for the first month, had a really, really low interest rate on the card. I think it was actually 0% for the first year.
Yes.
Yeah. They give you benefits if you open a checking or savings account with them, that sort of stuff. So whenever I went into buying this vehicle, I became hyper aware of the things that were going to come with this vehicle, which again, should have been a red flag coming out of the gate, buying it and getting off the dealership with it, but it was what I wanted. So whenever I decided to invest in this credit card for the tires, I also made sure that I knew that in the future, when this happens again, because it's always when with me in cars, as we know, when something like this happens to me again, will this be eventually something that will benefit me in the long run? And it did. After I paid off a lot of that money, cash back and stuff like that, I ended up boosting my credit significantly. I ended up getting a lot of cashbacks and points that I used for a trip to visit my family. And
you used points for a trip?
Yes.
Look at that.
I know. I told you. Doing good. But those are really, really important things to me regarding my credit card that I did not think of on my own originally. But whenever I opened that conversation with Joe of being like, hey, like what are benefits of this credit card versus this one, and then taking my own time for once and making myself knowledgeable about how does this benefit my current lifestyle.
Right.
And that's what ended up helping me, because they give you 3% on gas, and for someone that travels 9 hours and back, gas is incredibly important.
So you mean to tell me that I'd have to research what benefits my card gives me to make sure I choose a good one?
You should probably do research somewhere at some point.
Yeah. So if you're traveling back and forth from Huntington to Lubbock,
Yep.
and you have to pay for all that gas, you get 3%
Yes.
cash back. So was it a good decision to open the credit card?
I would say it was a good decision to open the credit card. The way that I used the credit card ended up not being smart
That's
at
fair.
all.
So let me ask you this regarding the card. Obviously, you went through a lot as a college student.
Yes.
You know, I didn't know some of the stuff you shared. I'm just now hearing for the first time. But did you ever get in a bind once you had the card and you had to call them? Did it ever happen where you had to call them and
Yes.
ask for some grace?
Yes. So that's another good thing about Chase. Now, people have their ups and downs with Chase because, again, it is a credit card company. They're not perfect. Not every person you speak to will be perfect. I've had some very negative interactions. This is not to hate on Chase or whatever.
We love you,
But
Chase.
that's just customer service. That's just how life works. They're not necessarily thrilled when you call them after you've maxed out your credit card. They're not necessarily in the most giving, gracious mood within a year of you having a credit card, you've maxed it out.
Okay.
So for me, again, it's the same situation that happened whenever I started getting my Pell Grant money. I used my credit card like a debit card. And I would tell myself, oh, when I get my paycheck, whatever money I spend on my credit card, I'll use my paycheck to pay that off. Life still goes on. So while I was telling myself, oh yeah, in 2 weeks when I get my paycheck, this $20 I spent on food, I'm gonna pull it from my paycheck. That didn't happen because in 2 weeks, another thing popped up that I had to have, or an emergency happened, or I needed something, or whatever it may be. My dog needed to go to the vet, something like that. Pre-planning for money that I wasn't sure of already, when I was already living paycheck to paycheck, and I ended up spending money on that debit card, or on that credit card, as if it was a debit card, consistently, to the point where I maxed out my credit card, which again, isn't super foreign for a lot of people. I didn't have a crazy limit, thankfully. I think they knew better than to give me anything excess of $1,000. But they are so gracious with a lot of scenarios. And this is for, I think, almost any company that I've had to deal with, money-wise. Living paycheck to paycheck is hard, but communication goes a long way. And sometimes it takes putting your pride and your ego to the side and picking up the phone and being like, hey, Chase card. You can't lie to these people, right? They can see what you're spending the credit on. They know where your money's going. And if they see 3 times in a row that I went to McDonald's out of the 5 days in a week, they know where that money went. So having to call them and being like, hey, I know I went in excess. I know that I spent too much money. I know that I messed up. I know that you can see that I messed up. I know that because you locked my card. And having to tell them and just being completely vulnerable and honest, just being like, I need an extension. I need extra time. I need so and so and so. And this works better when you have, one, consistently paid at least your minimum.
That's right.
If you can't afford to pay more than your minimum, that's fine, but try and pay your minimum because at least it shows that you're putting an effort towards paying off your bills. And then 2, coming to them with a game plan. Hey, I'm struggling, cannot pay y'all these 2 weeks or this month even, but on this day, I'm gonna pay you this amount of money. And for now, let me give you $20 for good word. And then in a few weeks, I'll pay the remainder of my minimum and next month's minimum. And just going into that conversation with a game plan, an established game plan. And not only that, but they do not owe you anything. So you need to go into conversations with debtors or lenders with the expectation that you will probably not get what you want out of that conversation because they do not owe you anything at all at any point in time. Do they owe you anything? You signed an agreement with them and you're responsible for it. So going in with more of a gracious attitude and a communicative personality of being like, I know I messed up and this is on me, gets you a lot more benefit in the long run. This does not work every time because, and I know that from experience, but this does not work every time. But more times than not, they're a lot more lenient to get some money from you rather than get no money and send all of your debt to collections, where most people don't pay out
Right.
in the long run.
So let's back up a little bit. So you're a college student, got a credit card, got the car of your dreams with bad tires. Student loan debt. Did you take out any student loans? Did you try to take out any student loans?
I took out student loans my last semester at Texas Tech. At this point, I was severely overworked. I had been working 3 or 4 jobs coming into my last semester at Texas Tech, and I was really struggling mentally. Because again, it's expensive to just live. So at this point, I had 3 or 4 jobs. I was going through a breakup. Life seemed like it was ending detrimental. Like I said, it happens a lot. Everything felt super detrimental to me. So eventually, when I just decided to quit my jobs,
Okay.
because again, don't do that. I decided to quit all of them but one job. It was my internship at the law firm.
And you're quitting because it's too much
It
to
was
be a
too
student
much, yes.
and hold 3 jobs.
And hold 3 jobs.
Okay.
It's not impossible.
I think everybody understands.
Yeah.
Like being a full-time student,
Yes. And working.
pre-law.
Yes. And I was president of several organizations. I was doing a lot of things to prove myself. And it did not go well for me. It's not impossible to do. And if you are doing it, I'm very proud of you. And if you have friends that are doing it, please tell them you're proud of them because it was hard. But at this point, I had completely overworked myself. It was my last semester. I was taking 21 credit hours my last semester at Texas Tech, which again, don't do that. Taking 21 credit hours my last semester with the 3 jobs, with the recent breakup, life was just too much for me. And at the end of the day, I come home and there's a dog who has no idea how much rent costs, and she's living her best life and sleeping in my bed every day. So I was aggravated. So I decided to quit all my jobs. I decided to call it a day. I was like, I'm done. I'm gonna work the one internship. I'm finished. I'm going to take out a student loan. Fortunately, I was one of the students who have Hazlewood because my dad is a veteran, which resulted in most of my college tuition, the bare tuition, being paid for. That, however, does not account for any other expense outside of bare tuition, which does get costly. But I did end up having that sort of as a resource for my last 2 years. But that does not cover rent, car note, Wi-Fi, electricity, books, gas, anything extra that you need to just survive, food, water, whatever, comes out of my own pocket still. So I decided I'm going to quit all my jobs and take out a student loan. This is so funny. So my last semester, I thought, student loan, they're just going to give you money. Which at this point, you would think that I know better. I didn't. I was like, they're just going to give, they have money in the bank. They're going to just give it to me. No, they didn't. That's not how that works. Due to significant income that I had received from Pell Grant and scholarship money and all of this stuff, essentially the amount, and I'll be completely transparent, that I qualified for was like a $700 subsidized loan and then a $1,000 unsubsidized loan. And if you have any apartment in a college town ever, $1,000 will very frankly cover nothing. $1,000 may cover your rent if you're lucky. And that's not even moving into bigger cities like Austin, where their rent is about $2,000 for a studio apartment. So I saw $1,700, and in my head, instead of being practical, I accepted both of those student loans without knowing the difference between subsidized and unsubsidized loans, without knowing the interest rate on either loan, without knowing the repay amount or time on either loan. And I just accepted it because I didn't want to go to work because, again, I had no emergency fallback plan for while I was working. So if you haven't seen the common denominator amongst this video, that's the common denominator. Have an emergency financial backup plan, because I didn't, and it put me in a lot of learning positions that, one, could have frankly been avoided and wasn't avoided. So I ended up taking out both the subsidized and unsubsidized loan, which was $1,700, which paid for basically nothing, and frankly could have gone without taking out either loan because of just frankly didn't do anything. I was still in severe debt from the other things that I had owed because I could no longer live or match up to the lifestyle that I now had from working 3+ jobs.
And did you get Pell Grant while you're at Texas Tech, or had that already been exhausted?
I got Pell Grant at Texas Tech for every semester that I was at Texas Tech, which I had to fight for. If you are given an offer, this is like my biggest lifelong, because I did not know this was a thing. You can negotiate your financial aid. You can negotiate it every single day for the rest of your college career. I was given $0. I think it was actually like $500 total for Pell Grant for college, which this was before I knew Hazlewood existed.
You said $500?
$500
For what, your last semester or?
total, like forever. They said $500 is all you get. That's it. Have fun.
But at Angelina College, you received more. Right?
Yes.
Interesting.
So due to just personal things and our tax bracket or whatever, they claimed we made too much money. I won't go into all the details of that because it's not my story to tell. But that wasn't the true living situation that we were in.
Okay.
So they said that that I only got $500. So what I did was back and forth emails from the entire month of, I think it was like June through August. I appealed over and over and over again for my financial aid, for my Pell Grant. And eventually I got that number way up from $500 to a little over $7,000 a semester.
Oh, wow.
From appealing it.
That's why you're going to be an attorney?
Yes. Well, it was work. They make you write an essay. They make you submit pay stubs. They make it hard for you to get money from the school. But if you truly need it, and you do need it, you will put in that work.
So listen, everybody, don't just take the easy no. You have to fight for it.
You have to fight for it. You have to prove to them that this is something that you're in need of. And this is not like a scapegoat free money thing. They are looking at every single aspect of everything financially in your life. And it took me literally, no joke, from the start of June until the day school started for them to approve my appeal. With me writing back and forth emails, I wrote 2 or 3 essays that I had to reformat. I had to send them every single legal document that I've ever owned in my entire life, from your birth certificate all the way up. And I did that for 3 months to get all of it appealed. And it was a process, but it worked.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
You'll be a great financial aid attorney. So I want to go back to Hazlewood Act. So I shared this with you. I used Hazlewood Act myself. Anyone who is a veteran from Texas who goes into the military and then comes back to live in Texas, they receive, I believe it's 150 credit hours at any state-funded college or university.
Public institution.
So if they do not use it for themselves, they can pass it on to their children. They cannot pass it to their spouse. They can pass it on to their children. So once I found out that her father, because I did not know this, but Mr. Anderson is a veteran. So when I found out that he was a veteran, we convinced him. We had to bring him in and convince him that this is something that he could do. And he did it and ended up covering her tuition. So if you are related to a veteran, if you're a veteran yourself, or if you're a son or daughter of a veteran, know that this exists if they are from Texas, deploys, and come back and live in Texas. So very important benefit that could actually be over $100,000 of benefits. I received my MBA without paying anything for tuition. So that was valued at almost $80,000 that I used, and I still have some left, which I may ended up pursuing a doctorate degree. So Hazlewood is very important. All right. So now that you're at this point, so you've been through the gambit. So you've been through your personal situation at home. You've been through high school. You've been through community college. You've been through an apprenticeship program. You've been through political science degree at Texas Tech. You've had at least 10 jobs. You've had almost a dream job at a law firm, and you're a graduate. And now you're entering the next phase of your life, which law school is on the brink. You'll be studying for your LSAT, and so we'll be praying for you on that. What do you need to know now? Now you've graduated from being a baby. Now you're a young professional. So as a young professional, what would you like to know, or what is important for you to know about finances?
So I think the biggest thing right now is none of us really know what we're doing anymore.
I know what I'm doing. You speak for yourself.
Most people my age don't know what we're doing anymore. I think every day we're hearing new buzzwords being thrown around. Inflation, the housing market, nobody can afford a house. I mean, I don't know how many times I've seen that article. Nobody in our generation can afford a house. Sorry. None of us can afford to buy a car. None of us can afford to have a family. None of us can afford to not have a roommate. None of us can, a lot of things about what none of us can do and what we're not going to be able to do. So going into, I guess, young adulthood now, being a young professional now, is just kind of knowing what should I expect life to look like financially in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. The cost of everything is going up. We're still getting paid substantially less than what it takes to survive anymore. Most people I know have a second job, a third job, a gig job. They're picking up DoorDash, Instacart, Uber, whatever it may be, some form of something. And I think the biggest thing for me and for many young adults my age is just to know practically what can we do? You know, how can we make sure that at this point it feels almost as if getting ahead is not a reachable or realistic goal, but what can we do or know or apply in our day-to-day lives that'll get us somewhere that's at least livable.
Yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of times, and enjoyable too, while still being able to enjoy life, because we are still young adults, you know, 22 is not like this big grown adult. I am still like younger. I think most parents our age have had kids by the time they're 20, and our generation is surely but slowly outgrowing that dynamic of young marriage, young kids, young families, young homes. Because we can't afford it anymore. If you want me to be so transparent and so blunt. So I think the biggest thing for my generation to know is just what can we do practically to be able to not ensure, but to at least give ourselves a fighting chance in the future to be able to have some sort of asset, capital, or profit to our name. Because right now it feels as if we're all behind already and we just started.
So I don't know if you know this, but for the last 2 years, I've gone to Ghana. So this last year, I brought Elena with me. Elena's my wife. But I brought Elena with me, and it gave us an opportunity to see how people live in a third world, well, I guess what we would consider a third or a second world country. And I think we make life here a lot harder than what it has to be, because we have so much that is available, so many things we can get. Like if we don't have an iPhone here, you're almost living beneath like your privilege. And so, but over there, people live off of much less. So one thing that I want everybody to know, just think about what you want in life and do you really need it? And watch the video on the Financial Fridays about needs versus wants. Do you really need all the stuff that you want? We put ourselves in some crazy situations because we feel like we deserve to get what we want, but that could end up being catastrophic. So thank you for sharing that. And then now this is really the most important question I'm going to ask you. So we've heard, and that's one of the reasons why I'm thankful that you're here in town for a little while and willing to have this conversation, because your story is not uncommon. Some of the things you went through is specific to you, but most college students struggle. But just you've been an extreme case and you've made it through. And I think that's amazing. But if you were going to advise somebody, you could speak directly to young people who are juniors in high school, seniors in high school, or maybe even in community college, or in your situation, like any point in time where you have been, what do you want them to know?
I guess the biggest things, which camera is it? Would it be this camera or this camera? I'm going to look them in the eye. The biggest things I would say is, one, stop comparing your situation to everyone else's situation.
Okay.
I think that's like the biggest thing for you, especially I think most people struggle with it. It's just putting themselves in a position of comparison. When we really, truly, it does not matter how much people overshare about their lives, you really, truly do not know about anything going on in their life. and putting yourself in a position of comparison with someone who lives a completely different life than you will only set you up for failure.
Wow.
And that's in the positive aspect or negative mindset. If you're looking at someone being like, well, at least I'm not like them, at least I'm doing better than them, you genuinely do not know anything that person is going through.
That is correct.
And then comparing yourself to someone who's doing better than you, if they came out of like at starting childhood with a 401k and credit cards and accounts in their name already where their parents are taking care of them, how fair is that for someone like me who had nothing to compare myself to someone like that? And that is not to hate on either person in that dynamic, because you can only do with what you're given. But that's the point of it, is to not look at what other people are doing and solely focus on what you're doing, what you can do, and what you're wanting. And if by comparing yourself to people who have never lived the life you have, how can you expect to live the life they have without knowing the same struggles? Yeah. You can get there. It's not impossible to do better or do worse or whatever it may be, but you don't know these people, especially with today's internet age. It just feels like everyone our age is doing so much better and so great and da-da-da. We don't know. We don't know.
That's true.
And then so I guess that would be the first biggest thing. And then the second biggest thing is do not be afraid to admit that you don't know what's going on, or that you're at a low point, or that you need help. So many times, ego and pride has costed me so many things. So to put yourself in a position, humble yourself, and this is whether you're religious or not religious, whatever it may be, humble yourself. Tell yourself that doing something that you may not want to do, or something that you may feel ashamed of, embarrassed of, whether that be coming from big time career to going to work in a fast food place, or whether that be knowing that you know more than someone who's getting paid more than you and being like, oh, whatever. Putting yourself in a position of humbleness and a position of grace and just telling yourself, I don't know really what's going on. I need help with whatever is going on. I need to be serious about the situation that I'm in right now. And if that means having to not speak my mind, which I have the biggest problem with, not speak my mind, do something that I think is embarrassing or set back or whatever it may be, do it for the sake that in the future you are set up for success.
Yeah.
And then I think the last thing would be just live a life that not only you'd be proud of, but live a life that is an example for someone else. Mm-hmm. Right now, I feel like I'm like the genuine bad example for everyone. Don't do anything that I've done. That's how I feel sometimes. But in reality, when you take a step back and you look back, it's like I have done a lot of things beneficial for myself and I have a college degree, which, like we said earlier, I never thought I'd ever get to go to college. I've worked a billion jobs, and I thought I was going to be stuck at Sonic for the rest of my life. I've made amazing connections. I've met amazing people. I'm pursuing higher education as well. Taking a step back, realizing what you have, and realizing, hey, how can the life that I live not just be a good life for me or a life that I'm proud of, but a life that somebody else can use as an example for themselves, over whether that be what to do or what not to do. How can my life be an example of getting to my goal? And that means never stopping either when bad times happen or bad things happen. Because the only way you can be an example is if people see that you're going somewhere worth going. And if you give up, why would anybody want to have an example of you giving up?
That's good.
Thank you.
So thank you for joining us. Again, thank you, Jaida, for being willing to do this. It's hard to put out your mistakes. Mm-hmm. And even sometimes your successes. Mm-hmm. It's hard to put that out there for the world to see. So thank you for being transparent. I believe this video will help people. If you have questions about your specific situation, set up some time with us. We'll talk to you. It doesn't have to be with me. We have other coaches that are available. So our website is www.legacy-institute.org, and just register for services or go to the About Us page and book an appointment with me. If you have my email, send me an email, but we are here for you, just as we've been there for Jaida, and we'll continue to be there for Jaida, but this is why we're here. So if you have questions that you would like us to answer, put them in the comments. But until next time, thank you and enjoy. Take care.
Bam.
Good job. Appreciate it. Keep going. That was shorter than what I thought it was going to be.
Me too.
I skipped some questions because you actually
I feel
elaborated.
like I did good.
Yeah,
That's
that
why I
was
looked at
actually
it.
good. What did you think about that?
I think I did good
I feel
compared
like
to the
we're on
last
Club
one.
Shay Shay with Sterling Sharp.
Who?
Oh, you didn't see Club
We're
Shay?
on
Remember
MTV.
Cat Williams when he had that explosive
I
interview?
love Cat Williams.
Did you see the one with him and Sterling and Shannon Sharp?
No. Have you seen that stand-up comedian Chappelle, Dave Chappelle?
Yeah.
What do you think about him?
I love Dave Chappelle.
I do
mean, he's
too.
like real.
I think he's so funny. He reminds me of my dad.
So, didn't she see? Did she give you mail? What is that?
To check for Jaida. But there's a thing on the door where it says no question.
Ooh. Yeah.
Jada like fully turned around, like.
I was like, who is
So-
that? Well, the door is gonna pick up, and I don't want to keep talking. 'Cause
So